Hey guys, Sam back with you here, October 17th. We're midday. I'm going to try and move a little more quickly on some of these. A few we're revisiting from the last day or two, and then I've had a couple of requests that I'm going to try and get to here. So just to recap, this is Dash in front of us here. I've got the 4-hour against the dollar. This is on Kraken. So I just want to remind you, and put this in context. We're trying to find a way in here based on a count that we're evaluating on the hourly. This is the 4-hour, but I want to just put it in perspective of what kind of targets we have on this. And just our first target up here is around 500, but we've got targets much higher here. So when you look at what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go, I think it's worth just being mindful of what the upside here is, and a stop or two here should be expected, and shouldn't hurt you too much. And again, in terms of where this could go, you should be well compensated if this is going to play ball, and we're going to follow the count that looks most likely, at least at this point. Okay, so we are operating on the premise that we've got a one wave that's subdivides into 5. We get an ABC that breaks down nicely into a 5-wave structure. So we feel like we've got a good hard pivot here on the 2 low, which happens to be right at the 618. So how do we get in? So, we looked at this yesterday. I'm going to revisit here. So we have right now currently labeled. We've got a 1 wave, a 2, a very deep 4, which again, as has been characteristic of this market, goes right to the 618. We get the first reaction. Now we've had a deep pull down here for a 2. So let me push this up a little bit so I can center it on the chart. So this is, now I've drawn a little parallel channel here because we've gone outside of the channel that had been containing the market, and all I did was just draw a trend line right on this line, and then just pull it out a little bit so you get a bit of a, it's often called a warning line or a peripheral line here, as we may see the market responding to this if indeed it's going to move higher. So right now we're pushing up on the bounds of what would be a reasonable place for a 2. So any help from the oscillators? Well, RSI starting to move up a little bit. We got some depth here. I've got a stochastic on here, so which is much more, you get much more activity here. So we've got some potential here. You can see we've got a little bit of divergence here, although we are not looking at new prices. But all of this seems to suggest that there's potential here for this second wave low to be in. We've gone deep. I think we've gone a little bit. Let me just draw it up. So if this is our low for a 1, there's our high. We've gone 2 and a few ticks through the 786, and now we're just kind of stuck here. So this is tradable. It's extremely reasonable risk reward. So a buyer here, knowing what kind of upside we've got. Very reasonable to put a stop on the other side of this 6.5 here. That's our pivot low. Actually, you could be tighter than that because you could be very tight with this, because if this is taken out, then we do not have a hard pivot to start counting out a 1 wave. If this low is violated, then we're going down again. Then we relabel, right? So this would get, so there's actually a good example. So what we think now is a 1, 2, 3, 4 gets relabeled as an ABC, and this becomes a 1, 2, and we go lower. Right, so again, remember in L8 wave, there's a constant process of adapting your roadmap or your count, if you will, to what the market is giving you and showing you and where it's going. So right now, this still holds as a potential second wave. If we break this pivot, that cannot be. 2 cannot break the 1 low. So we have to reevaluate, and perhaps we're going deeper. And we're sitting here at 298. I mean, it's certainly possible that we go deeper. I'm in this trade. I'd like to see this hold, of course, right? But very, very low risk on this. Right here, just to our first target up here. If this is going to be a 3, there's our 1618. So almost a 7 to 1. That's a trade I take. I take that, and I don't really worry about it. Again, I try and encourage you to not get overly attached to any one trade. It's just another trade. Just another trade. Good, low risk. Not going to hurt me if it gets stopped out. If I have to relabel this, that's fine. That's fine. I'd rather not get stopped out, but if I'm going to, I'm just going to move on to the next trade. So this remains, a contender. I would tell you that this is very tradable right now. If this, hasn't moved too far, but whenever it is that you see this video, that's very tradable, and we'll just watch that. So, you'd have a better entry than I, because I'm in at the 6.8. So there you go. There's Dash. Let me go over here. We were also looking at, this is... I've got Zcash here. We'll just visit this real quickly. This had been incredibly technical for a very long period of time, and it's just kind of gone quiet. So swing low to high. I've drawn this little range that we're in. We've broken the 6.5. It's just there's nothing really tradable there. We need either a move down or a move higher to give us more information to make any kind of a even get a good count on it. Here's Monero. This is one we looked at yesterday. We've had this nice impulsive 1, potentially a 1. We come down here. As you may recall yesterday that I said, I'm reluctant to call this a 2 because of how quickly this happened, right? So you get a very tight little B wave. I don't love that structure. So my suggestion was that most likely we had an A wave in, we'd put in some sort of a B, and likely we go down for a C to complete that and give it more structure, a little more time. That seems to be the way it's playing. So you can see here on this count, I pulled from high to low, right into our Vegas wave. We go up to between the 50 and the 618, just as you'd expect for a B wave. And we've got targets down here at the negative 23.6, which lines up nicely with the 786. So if that's going to be a 2, this starts to look pretty good in terms of risk reward. If we're going up for a 3, that first target on the negative 23.6, you could be very tight with a stop here. No reason to give that a lot of room. There's 13.8 to 1. So that's absolutely one to watch. I'm a bull on Monero long term. I'd like to see this come down because then we get more confidence in that structure and we hold the 786, then that's a screaming buy. One to watch. Okay, let's move on. Now here's a fail, right? This is interesting. So look, this channel has been defining this market with remarkable accuracy. So this channel is drawn from this swing to this swing to this swing. And look what we've just done in the last, this is over the course of the swell conference that's going on right now. Up to the swing high, down to the swing low, to the tick. Now, we seem to be, we're revisiting this 50, right? But that 50 is pulled off of this 2 to this 3 high. So this is, suspect here, right? So we've actually gone through the channel by a few ticks, right? So warning sign, right? So you might end up with an external. I'll show you how I would do that. So I might look at this and just draw a trend line and say, okay, well, if we're going to get a little outside edge here, until we get a hard pivot, you can do that, and that will have a tendency, if you get a warning line like that, it has a tendency to show itself again later as the market progresses. Excuse me. Right now, we had the potential. Right, another good example of a fail. Right, so get used to these. Right, it fails all the time. So we had this potentially playing as this was our 4 low. We were looking for a 1 high to put in a 2. Right, so the extreme on the 2 would be the 786, which we broke this morning. So the potential trade here was looking for a 1 into a 2. Likely zone for the 2 would have been the 618. That all played nicely with the Vegas wave, and it just doesn't happen. So whatever they're hearing or is being discussed at the swell conference is not being well received by the market. They're disappointed. So there was a lot of bullish enthusiasm going into it. Boom. And then, rumor, sell the fact, could be. I don't know. But it's interesting how well this channel has contained this. So if we do get a reaction here and this starts to move higher, well, we can make the next target pretty easy for us if that's going to continue, right? And you trade it until it fails. So this still technically could be a 2 until this low is violated. That still could play as a 2. That's a mighty deep 2, but that still plays. So until we break this, that's the count that I keep on that. And, we'll just kind of watch that. But, I certainly wouldn't be a buyer here. If anything, I'd need, much more signs of a low that I could work from. So I'd be looking for that, followed by, maybe a revisit. That's where that channel, That's where that channel can come into play again. So that would be the setup that I would be looking for. I'd want to see a little push to tell me that I've got, you know, a potential pivot in here. First little retracement. These edges are often revisited. That would be a great little entry right there, looking for a target up there. So you know, again, just to make the point, you know, if you did a trade like that, no reason to give it a lot of risk, right? So the stop would be down here. If we're going to break that low, then that is not, you know, that this as a pivot 2 doesn't work. Upside, even if we just go to the channel, to the top of the channel, there's 9.8 to 1, right? That's you know, that's all you ever get in the market, guys. That's the best you can hope for. So the hard part is pulling the trigger there. Right, because you've seen this action, and you know you're thinking, well, the trend's down. Well, you know that's why trading is so hard. You have to do the opposite of what your emotions are telling you. Does this play structurally? Does it make sense? Do we have a fib relationship here that works? Right. So this still has the potential to be a second wave. Right. So nothing says that it couldn't be until we break this swing. So a little bit of a reaction. We get the pullback. It plays. The count is valid until that low is broken. That's the trade. Even though you've seen this kind of movement, you have to take that trade because, you know, look at the risk. If I pull this out here, you know, this kind of risk. How many times can you take that? It just takes one time. 2, 3, 4. I don't care. 2, 3, 4. I'll take 2, 3, 4 little stops all day long because I know one of the times we're going to get it here and we're going to go to target, just like you did here. Right? Take note of that. Right? So look here. Wave 1 high doesn't get violated. So the trade here was, you know, your stop was here. So entry here, stop is here. Look at the rip. Right. So, I mean, you got to keep taking them. You can't get shy. You know, if you wait too long, right, then all you've done is add risk to it. That's why you want this little pullback. You go, oh well, the market's coming down. I don't want to buy it. I only want to buy it when it's going up. If I'm a bull, no, it's quite the contrary. You want to buy when the market's retracing, not when it's doing this. Right? Somebody bought it up here. I promise you that. If the trade took place there was a buyer. Somebody bought it anticipating the breakout. Oh, swell conference is happening. This thing is going to rip. Somebody was a buyer there. You know, pain. You know, and just straight down. Like they couldn't even breathe. That's just straight down, and you get crushed there. Hopefully they were disciplined about their money management. You wait. You get the little retracement. If you're stopped out, not going to hurt you. If it has to happen again, you know, you do it. You just until this low is taken, you do it again. You get stopped out there, then you do it again. Then you look for this. Next one. Same thing. Where's the stop? Right there. Very low risk. Entry here. Stop here, right? You see, you know, and again, this is just hypothetical, but there's that little runner channel. Could, you know, you mark my words, that has potential to come back into play. So you do it again. You know, maybe we're starting a leading diagonal, right? Look, you know, then it's 8 to 1, 9 to 1, 8 to 1. You can be wrong 2 or 3 times. Just takes the one time it rips. Now you're well and you've made money. Okay, let's keep moving. Neo is one that's on the move, right? So look here. I had some people asking about this. So nice technical setup. So we had the, you know, clear 1, 2. We get the big impulsive 3. Here's our A wave. Here's our B wave. We established the channel. Now from swing low 2 to 3, here's our 50. Right, so we're looking for the 4 wave between the 38 and the 50. We wick through it a little bit, but interestingly, look at this 100%, right, that we see all the time in the C wave. Let me redraw it so you can see what I'm doing. Just taking the alternate price projection. If this is our A low, we're going to project from our B high. There's the 100%. So the box, the buy box is right here between the 50, right, between the 50% retracement and the 100%. Right, great little buy box. Right, stop. You know, you got to give that a little more room. Right, so stop. You know, a little further down. So you got to keep the size appropriate. So if that's going to be, well, so here's just exactly what, you know, good example. So if indeed we've got, this is our first leg of a 1 wave. Right, so if that's our first 1 wave, and we're looking for the 2. We're looking for the retracement here. So this is running. So now we're looking for this. right? So if that's going to play, well, we run into resistance as you'd expect, right? So I'm swinging from this high here to this low. We know we're likely to expect some resistance at the 50. There's the 61865. You know, we get a little shy of that. So if that's going to be the start of our fifth wave up here, we've got some nice upside targets here. This has got good. I can't even see them. All right, so there's your 5 target. That's just the negative 23 off of this 50, right? So if that's a good pivot, right? So now, see, it's the same thing over and over again. Do you see this? So now we're making the assumption that the pivot low is in for this ABC fourth wave low, right? So here's the 4. So we can now trade on that assumption because we get an anchor to work from. So we got to go up. So of course, if this is going to play as a fifth wave, we got to get through the resistance. So first challenge is get through the 50. Well, we got through it, but we quickly retraced. So if this is going to come down, so here's the trade, right? You can do this exact same thing on your chart. So I'm on a 4-hour here. So taking it from the low up to where we've just gone for this high, where's the trade? Right, so we're looking for a 2. Well, 2 can be, this is a question of, how aggressive you want to be in your account size, because this, so somewhere between the 2 and the 786, or pardon me, between the 50 and the 786 for a 2 wave, right? So you want to be tight with the stop, take it between the 50, take it at a little bit below the 50, stop on the other side of the 65. You want to give it a little bit more room, give it just the other side of the 786, because you're working off of this pivot, the assumption that the 4 low is in. So I'm looking for a 1-2, most likely spot for a 2 is between the 50 and the 618, but they can go deeper than that. They can. Right? If that fails, now look here. So if that fails and this low breaks, where are we going? We're going to the negative 23. Whoops, I keep doing that. I got to click it to get rid of it. We're going to the negative 23. Okay, off of this pull here. Swing high to low. There's the 50 and the 618. If this is not going to play out as our fifth wave, we're going deeper. We're going to the negative 23. So we get another buy box here because look where that lines up, right with the 618 and the 65. So you get another buy box here. If this doesn't hold, then it means we got one more push down. That still plays technically because here's our one wave high. So this, you could be a buyer here. So you could be a buyer at the 618 or a little bit before it. We still look at the upside here. Now, no reason to take it beyond the wave 1 high, right? So you can be, give it a few ticks. So you give that. So now you've got 8.6 to 1. Do you get the idea here? It's about positioning yourself to be there for that kind of return, knowing that you might get stopped here. You might get stopped, right? But eventually, if you just continually pull the trigger at these kind of structural points that are consistent with price, pattern, time, the fib relationships, the channel, you build a case for every trade. Does this work? Can this play? What's the risk reward? Can it hurt me? Right? It's the same questions. You just have to ask yourself those same questions over and over again. And eventually, you're going to find yourself in that trade. And that makes up for a lot of little small losers. Even this, small loser. It's 8 to 1. Get stopped out twice, no problem. Third time hits it, you're whole and you've made money. All right, let me keep going. I'm trying to get to a few requests that I had. All right. This was getting all the buzz today. So here's Stellar Lumen. All right, look at this action. Now, that's the 4-hour. Okay, so let's put this in perspective. Let's go to the 8-hour. Actually, let me go. I got to go further than that to give you a little perspective on this. Okay, so. This is Lumen against the dollar, right? So we've seen this before. So, is this the start of a wild bull run? Well, it could be, but take note, this is not the first time we've seen this kind of pump. For me, this is not tradable. This is not tradable. Whatever the news, the buzz, the pump, whatever it is that's causing that, there's not enough structure there for me to trade. Right, so if you're in or you like it or you're willing to roll the dice on this, then by all means have at it. But for my methodology, it doesn't it doesn't suit what I'm looking for because I don't have enough information here. And I can just go over here and look and say, well, is that something that Lumen will do? Is this a pump dump? Maybe. You got to go all the way down to an hourly to get any kind of structure here. So, maybe this is a 1, this is a 2. This is certainly impulsive. Interestingly, let me take some of this off. So, you would approach this the exact same way, right? So we have some sort of a swing low here before the launch. So what's the first thing we would do? First thing we're going to do is just grab a fib and say, okay, from my swing low to my high, oh, that's interesting. Where do we go? Right between the 618 and the 65. I don't know how many times I've shown that to you. But so that should be no surprise that on the retracement, that's where we find the support, right? And then we get a little rip. But look at that rip. See, that's not impulsive. That's corrective. So we get this happens very fast. So this happens fast and this happens fast. So unless you were on the trigger and you knew this was coming, or you were already in the market and you watched that thing rip up at 6 in the morning, depending on where you're trading it. But you saw that thing rip, and you were able to catch some profit, or you were trailing with a stop. Well, good for you. I'm glad you got it. But as you look at it now, so given that we've had that, what would we expect now coming the other direction? Well, we got to get through the 50 and the 618 if this is going to be a bullish move. But it stalls, the B wave, very typical place for a B wave to stall between the 50 and the 618. So now you'd be anticipating that unless we get up one more time and this becomes some sort of diagonal, right now the probability is that this moves lower because of the structure, because we've had an A. We've had a very clear 3-wave into a B. This little pocket between the 50 and the 618 holds. Where's the likely target? Now look at that. It's interesting. So the negative 23.6 off of this 50 lines up perfectly with the 786, which lines up perfectly with the Vegas wave. So if I were looking to get long in this market, so also note this, right? Always pay attention to structure. So we've got this little swing high here. Previous resistance might play as the support. So if I'm looking to get long, I'm not touching it until it gets down here. Right now, you might, knowing algos will front run, so you might give that a little box, right? So we'll revisit that and see how this plays over the next couple of days. Now, right, we've already had this little touch, so I mean this could rip, but that's in that whole context of wait for your pitch. That's not a trade that I would take. This I would take. Yeah, that's so what do you do? So you just alarm it, right? So you put we get down a little close to it, put an alarm on it. I want to know when it gets there. Take a look at what it looks like, maybe even on a smaller time frame. Are the oscillators any help there? Right? That's definitely a nice looking trade. That's got all the ingredients here. So you get 1 ingredient, 2 ingredient, 3 ingredient, 4 ingredient. So that's how you build a case for a trade. I've got 4 technical components, each slightly different, telling me that that's a likely support zone for that trade. All right. So what else have I got? How am I doing on time? I'm at 23 minutes. Oh, I know what I wanted to show you. I'm going to go back over here because this was getting the buzz today. Bitcoin Cash. All right, big pump in Bitcoin Cash. All right, again, same thing. We got to look at the context here. So let's go out and say, okay, well, we know this thing has been all over the place. So we've seen this kind of pump. Now I'm on a daily here. So if I go swing high to swing low, we go up, here's that little pocket between the 50 and the 618, and then we go down to the negative 23. We go through a little bit, and we hit target. We ride it again. So now we look at that and go from swing high, right? We go right into the exact same pocket between the 50 and the 618. Now, we have not gotten to target yet. So there are algos that are, have a vested interest that are in the market looking for that target. Do we get there? Well, we don't know, right? We don't know. But so let's go down and look at it on a smaller time frame. Let's go to the 4-hour. Right? So here we sit. So what can we learn from this? Well, here was our swing low. Here's the little, we don't quite get to the 618. So we start this move down, right? Does that, sort of has a look of being somewhat a 5-wave structure, right? So we might have a 1, 2, Now the 4 is deep, so it would be a diagonal since we've overlapped the 1. You know, that's possible. All right, so let's go. You know, we don't know for sure, but I would certainly want to draw from this swing here to this swing low. Okay, look yet again between the 50 and the 618, and then you know we start. You know, now we've damn near given it all back, right? So all those people that were pumping it on Twitter this morning, Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin is really ripping today. You know, they've given it, you know, more than half of it back. I'm not saying, you know, you can't be bullish this coin, or I guess I'm just trying to show you that if you're applying this methodology to it, there's not a trade there. Right. This is maybe, you know, something maybe a change of trend, but for it to really change trend, we got to at least get through the 618. You know, this has got to turn into some impulsive structure, and if that's the case, well, we're not going to miss anything. We're not going to miss anything because if this starts to go impulsive and we invalidate this count, right? So this is not the count. Then we're going to have plenty of opportunity to catch a 1. You know, here, I mean, you know, you've already broken the 6.5. So, but if this starts to go impulsive, there's going to be opportunity to play retracements, right? So never feel like you've missed anything. Don't fall victim to the, you know, to the FOMO and the pump that you might see across the trade, you know, sites or on Twitter. You know, go to it and analyze it and say, okay, well, what could this be? Do we have a change of trend? Where can I determine that the trend has changed? So let's go down to the 1 hour. Okay, well, we had a launch, we rip higher, and we've come down. We've already broken the 65. So could it be a 1? Could be. I don't. You know, this is. You know, I mean, I suppose you could get a 1-2 out of that, and then another 1-2. But you know, here's your launch point. Now we could go back 1. Okay, well that's interesting, right? So we're sitting right at the 618. So maybe, but you know that would require 1, 2, 1, 2. So you know this could play. So if you're wanting to get long in this market, you may, you really have to be here. You may have something to work with there. That's not the prettiest thing I've ever seen. You know, there's not a lot of data there. You know, this kind of reaction happening that fast, that far up, that far down. You know, I don't trade that. That's not what I'm looking for. Doesn't mean somebody didn't make a fortune there, or that you might if you took it. I'm just, for this methodology, you know, if you've watched enough of my videos, you're going to look at that and say, well, you know, I suppose you could make the case certainly that you could be a buyer here. You could buy it. Yeah, I mean, you certainly could do this, right? So you know, if you're going to go up to new highs, you could put a tight stop on this. You could be a buyer there right now. There's 11-1 just to get back to the high we saw this morning, of which we've given back 62% of. So you know, you could trade that, right? If you're for whatever reason you're a Bitcoin Cash bull, and you know I'm not saying that I'm not, but that's a high risk trade to me. I don't have the good structure into an ABC that I would like to see. If anything, that potentially sets up for an A wave. I need more structure there. And I don't like that kind of scream up and scream down. It's just too much volatility. It's too much risk. You lose the predictability and the ability to position yourself looking for just the right structure that you like. Right? So, I mean, as a straight fib trader, just pulling fibs, there's your trade right there. Low risk. If you go back up and you go to new highs, well, there's the negative 23 up there, which lines up with the 618 and the 65. So, there's a 14-1 trade. So, could you take that? Yeah. Yeah, well, nothing says you couldn't. Nothing says that won't be our 4 low and that this is just a one wave and we're going up to new highs. So, that's just about, what you're comfortable with. I mean, that's tradable. So what's the entry there is 348. If you take it down the other side of the 65, you're 338. So yeah, you could trade that. Nothing wrong with that. It's $10 stop, right? Depends on the size, right? It depends on how much you're putting into it. I would be maybe a smaller position there because if that's going to run, your upside target is here. That's 14-1. You don't need a lot of size there, and of course, if that is a good pivot, you know what's coming here. Here's another option. If that's going to play as a pivot, well, you could be more conservative and wait for this. Wait for the first retracement off of your assumption that you've got a hard pivot in. And this retracement shouldn't violate that pivot because of the 618. So that would be the more conservative way to play that. If you want to just grip it and rip it, you could buy it right here, right now, tight stop on the other side of the 65. You've also got this down here. Pay attention to these. You've got, potentially your one high here, and that's the 786. So if this were going to go ultra deep, which it could. Now now look what you do to the risk reward. Now it's 4-1. Here, 14-1. So I would suggest to you that you keep the stop tight. Take the smaller stop. If it's going to go down here and base out again, well then you go again. You can be down here, assuming it doesn't take out the 1. There's your upside target. Now that's 17-1, right? Do you see? You're much better to take the small loser here and reload down here on the assumption that this swing high doesn't get taken out. Now you got a 17-1. The target didn't change, right? Because we're still working off of this, what do we work from this swing low, right? So the target does not change. The risk stays equally small. So even if you take two stops in a row, right? And you swing again. Eventually, you're going to get the rip. You're going to get that, right? I think that kind of makes the point. Okay, that's at 30 minutes again. Okay, I'm going to stop there. That's probably it for the day, guys. If I've got anything else, I'll show you. I appreciate all the support. I hope you guys are getting things out of this. I have, on recommendation from actually one of my subscribers, I've gone ahead and put a tip jar down there. I want to keep this, training free. I remind you that I didn't, discover anything here. This was taught to me, so this is a bit of a pay it forward. I see so much. I see things in crypto that drive me crazy. There's a lot of people positioning themselves as educators and trainers, and I cringe when I see some of the stuff that they're putting out. So I came into this space knowing that I could contribute here. If you're getting value out of this and you're comfortable, offering a tip up, just gives me a little bit of a budget and a reason to continue to do these. So, okay, I'll leave it at that. Tip jars below. Okay, guys, catch you tomorrow.